Okay. Hi, Roseanne. How are you?
Hey, Douglas, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for coming on the show. As we were getting set up, I believe you were in your treehouse. I see that on your bio. Was that your
Yeah,
treehouse where you were before you moved? Yeah.
I work in my treehouse in the summer. It has a roof and it has like a waist high sort of fence around the platform, but it's open to the air, so I don't really work out there in the winter. It's a little bit cold to work out there. But I love it in the summer and the spring and the fall. It's fabulous. So yeah, it's got like a pirate ladder and a slide and a rock wall to get up there, and it's lots of fun. Um, but I also have my husband built me a little studio in the backyard that's uh, warmer and better insulated and nice and quiet back in the corner of the garden. So
So that's where you do your writing sometimes?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay. Do you do something else or are you a full-time writer?
Well, I write full time, but I also work part time at my local independent bookstore. So I work at Annie Bloom's in Portland, Oregon, and I really love it. It's a really nice balance with the writing, and it's great to see readers on the regular and really see what people are looking for in a book. It's interesting, Lots of times when somebody walks into a bookstore, um, it's not just the book they're looking for. They're looking for interaction and community and a place that is reliably the same in a changing world. So yeah, I do love working at the bookstore, and it's nice and flexible too. So they're able to give me time to break away and do this sort of thing when I need to.
I guess I'm kind of a decided shopper if I even go out at all. I tend to buy everything online these days. If I were to go into a bookstore, I think I would know exactly what I came in there for. So you kind of
Mm.
surprised me by saying somebody would come in and they don't know what they want. How do you, I mean, how do you begin with something like that?
Well, it depends on if they're looking for themselves or somebody else and trying to find a connection with the last thing that they read that they really liked, or something that they know about the person that they're buying a book for. Sometimes they know what they want, but they don't know where to find it, right? Because like in January, we always put everybody's favorites of the year from the year before up on a special display in the bookstore. So some things that they might find in their ordinary sections are on the staff favorites shelf. So some of it is just let me help you find that particular book in this particular space. But then a lot of times it's a conversation about, oh, you really liked this. You might also try this. Or I work a lot in the children's section, and so helping people find a book that their reader is going to feel successful reading, and something that's going to appeal to them and entice them to read the next thing and the next thing. So yeah, it's really satisfying.
Do more people come in looking for a specific genre or for a specific author?
People who are coming in and looking for a specific author generally have a pretty strong idea of what they want, right? And so then if we don't have that author, though, we can often say, oh, people who like this author will also reliably like this one. And so we can help people sort of expand their circle of reading as they go. But yeah, I would say maybe about half the time people are like, I need something.
Escapism. They just want to escape.
Yeah. And so that's in some ways, they're also there because they need some conversation. They need a connection from somebody in a different sphere of their life. We have a couple of people who we are their mental health stop most days of the week, and they need some continuity in their life, and a bookstore is very the same from one day to the next. And so we're happy to be that for our community too, right? I get my cup of coffee in the morning, I stop at the bookstore for 10 minutes, and then I'm set for my day. I feel pretty lucky actually to be that for people in the community who need it.
Well, it sounds like a very good job.
Yeah.
And aside from that, you're also a writer, and I see a few books on here. The newest one is called A Wolf Called Fire. How
Mhm.
many books do you have published at this point?
This will be my 11th book, so
Quite a
I'm
few.
sort of astonished to arrive at this part. I was a terrible speller as a child, so that I became a writer at all is sort of astonishing to me. But and the comma also. No, I couldn't even now definitively tell you where the comma goes. So so I am a little surprised to find myself the writer, but I've always loved stories and I've always loved making things up. And so it is nice that I eventually came to writing and realized that I had people at the publishing house to help me with the spelling part. So thank goodness.
There is spell check these days, so that always helps. I know I'm a terrible speller as well. And the comma, I think it's a matter of opinion because if you use the, what is it, the Oxford comma?
Yeah. Well, and my British publisher, Wolf Cold Wander, was first published in Britain in Anderson Press. It came out simultaneously with Green Willow, and my British editor was like, "Oh, we don't use the Oxford comma. Nice people don't." And I was like, "Seriously? It's it's the Oxford comma." I mean, if it was the Melbourne comma, the Toronto comma, God forbid, then I would see your point. But it's the Oxford comma. And she was like, "Oh no, we couldn't possibly." So they took the Oxford comma out, and then Green Willow was like, "Where is the Oxford comma?" And I was like, "I can't with you people and the comma. Put it where you want it to go."
Well, the commas don't bother me as much as the people who don't use periods. I still have, and especially when people text you, that it just rambles on and on and on and on, and it needs a few periods in there, and they just can't be bothered.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one.
This let's all pretend to be James Joyce. We could get.
So, are all your books the genre is young adult or children, or what genre are your books?
Books. So in the bookstore, I'm always telling people middle grade is like all of the adventure and none of the kissing. So it's basically for like 8 to 14-year-olds, third to eighth grade. The sweet spot for my books, I would say, is probably 9 to 12. Um, it's a genre I really love. I have some picture books as well, but I really do love that middle grade voice and that middle grade audience. They're really very satisfying people to write for. So
Are all the books about animals?
no, I have several that have human characters. I've just hit on this voice of the wilderness thing with Green Willow that's worked really well and kids have really responded to. I'm super grateful to Green Willow and Anderson Press for helping me put together a book that really works not just for the child reader, but for teachers in schools, reading out loud. It works really well as a family read aloud. They put tons of illustration in. I think there's 130 pieces of art in the book. It's amazing. Monica Arminio is the illustrator, and she is from Madrid, Spain. And she's incredible, right? And so all of that art, and then at the end, they give me some space for back matter. So there's some nonfiction pieces about the ecosystem and about wolf biology and all that good stuff. And I'm really grateful that they're helping me put together this package that really seems to work for young readers. And so so that's where this sort of body of Voice of the Wilderness picture books and middle grade novels has come from.
So this is a series?
Yeah, it's a group of companion books is usually what they say. It's not like you read them in order like I don't know, the Chronicles of Narnia or something, but each one is narrated from the point of view of the animal. And A Wolf Called Fire and A Wolf Called Wander are companion books. They're two pups from the same pack, and so they grow up together. And then when an enemy pack comes and attacks the pack and kills the alpha, Wander runs away and leaves and never comes back. And A Wolf Called Wander is his story of that journey. But Fire, the other pup, who's the omega of his pack, he stays and he's left with the pack's new pups. and everybody else scatters, and here he is with these pups all by himself, and he's the Omega wolf, he's the smallest one, and he's kind of on his own to care for them. And so the book is a lot about how he comes into his own as a leader. But those two books, you don't have to, you could read them in any order. So they're more companions than a sequel, I would say.
We've got about 2.5 minutes, and there's a couple of talking points on here that I think are interesting. I'm just going to read them. I think we can do two.
Okay.
Why is it important for children to learn about animals and animal behavior?
Well, what I want the most is for children to feel a sense of connection to the wilderness. Childhood is a more urban thing than it used to be. And, but human beings were just hardwired to protect what we love. And so I want my readers to feel connected to the wilderness and feel connected to the creatures of the earth, so that they'll be able to seek out wilderness for themselves in their life, and so that they'll be motivated to protect it, right? I mean, the care of the earth, man, we have some hard choices to make. And, but I think we will be able to make those hard choices if we love the wilderness, if we care about wild things. So that's my hope, really, is that emotional connection to wilderness. So.
Last of the talking points, some of the interesting or unusual facts about wolves that you discovered when researching them.
I really love the new things that we have learned about wolves in the last 5 or 10 years. Because wolves have been observed intensively in Yellowstone Park, we've learned a lot more about how leadership goes in a park, because wolves' lives are relatively short. Wolves who make it through their first year, on average, they live 5 to 6 years. And so that leaves lots of turnover and lots of churn in the leadership of the pack. And back when most researchers were male, they typically would watch only the largest and most sort of aggressive, dynamic male wolves. And when female wolf biologists came on the scene, they looked at the same group of wolves, but instead of focusing on those really big and charismatic males, they looked at female wolves, and they looked at the Omega wolves instead. And one of the things that they discovered is if you use the same rubric for research, it's actually the females that lead the pack. The female chooses the den site. The female chooses that meeting ground, the rendezvous site. And the female chooses the direction of travel each day as they go out to hunt. It's the female wolf that chooses the direction of travel. And so that was pretty cool to learn. And just to understand that there's more than one way to lead a pack. Being physically dominant and forcing everybody else in the pack to submit to you, that's one way to lead a pack, but it's not the only way, and it's not necessarily the most successful way. And so it was really great to learn about all of these different sort of leadership styles among wolves. And so I chose to model the wolf in A Wolf Called Fire on this wolf from Yellowstone who was the Omega of his pack, but he had a real gift for mentoring pups and leading them with lots of compassion and lots of patience. And he ended up with a pack of his own, of these pups who were fanatically loyal to him, and he ended up being the patriarch of the most powerful pack in Yellowstone because he chose this different leadership style. And so that was really interesting and fun to think about and fun to write about.
Has the book been released?
It comes out on February 4th.
Rosanne, we do have to wind this down. We are out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the show. The last question is, do you have a website you want to give out?
Yeah, it's just rosanneparry.com, and I have information about my appearances there and all of the books, and yeah.
Okay.
And kiddos who want to write me a letter, there's the address of the bookstore where I work is on my website, and they can write me a letter there.
All right, super. Well, again, thanks for coming on. Nice meeting you. Nice conversation, and best of luck with your book. I hope it does well.
Thank you.